What if I told you that the life you want is waiting just 60 minutes away? Not 6 months, not 6 years. 60 minutes, because the difference between average and extraordinary is not talent, it's discipline. Practice daily. And in 2026, the winners won't be the busiest people. They'll be the most consistent. There is something powerful about reducing greatness to something manageable. When people think about changing their lives, they imagine massive action, quitting jobs, waking up at 4 a.m., running 10 miles, reading 50 books, launching businesses overnight. That kind of thinking overwhelms the mind before the journey even begins. But 1 hour feels possible. 1 hour feels accessible. It doesn't intimidate you. It invites you. And that's exactly why it works. Real transformation doesn't require you to burn your entire life down and rebuild it in a day. It asks for one focused, intentional hour, 60 minutes where you are not distracted, 60 minutes where you are not reacting, 60 minutes where you are building. An hour is small enough to start, yet powerful enough to shift direction. Think about it. How many hours are lost every single day without intention? Hours drift away in scrolling, in overthinking, in distractions that feel urgent but aren't important. Now imagine reclaiming just one of those hours, not 2, not 5, just one. When you intentionally decide how that hour will be used, you take control of your trajectory. It becomes an appointment with your future self. You're no longer hoping for change, you are scheduling it. And when something is scheduled, it becomes real. It becomes non-negotiable. It becomes part of your identity. 1 hour of focused reading every day can make you more knowledgeable than most people in your field within a year. 1 hour of skill practice can turn a beginner into a professional. 1 hour in the gym can transform not just your body, but your confidence. 1 hour of planning can eliminate chaos from your week. The math is simple, but the impact is profound. 60 minutes multiplied by consistency equals growth. And growth, motivation is loud. It makes big promises. It feels electric in the moment. You watch a video, hear a speech, read a quote, and suddenly you're ready to conquer the world. But motivation is emotional, and emotions are unstable. They rise and fall. They depend on mood, weather, sleep, stress, and circumstance. If your growth depends on motivation, your growth will be inconsistent. Some days you'll feel unstoppable. Other days you won't even start. And that's the trap most people live in, waiting to feel ready. Discipline is different. Discipline is quiet. It doesn't need excitement. It doesn't need applause. It shows up whether you feel inspired or not. It understands something powerful. Action creates momentum, not the other way around. When you commit to 1 hour a day, you remove the debate. You don't wake up asking, do I feel like it? You wake up knowing, it's what I do. That shift alone changes everything. Because now you are not negotiating with your comfort. You are honoring a commitment. The beauty of discipline is that it simplifies life. It eliminates decision fatigue. When something becomes part of your routine, it no longer drains mental energy. You don't argue with brushing your teeth. You don't debate whether you should sleep. It's automatic. That's what your 1 hour must become: automatic, scheduled, protected, non-negotiable. Discipline turns a goal into a standard. And standards are powerful because they define who you are. There will be days when you're tired, days when your schedule feels overwhelming, days when distractions pull harder than usual. In those moments, motivation will disappear, but discipline will remind you of your promise. It will whisper, just show up. And often showing up is enough. You don't need perfection, you need presence. Even if the hour isn't your best work, it's still progress, and progress compounds. Discipline also builds self-respect. Every time you keep your word to yourself, You strengthen trust within. You begin to see yourself as someone reliable, someone consistent, someone who finishes what they start. That internal shift is powerful because once you believe you are disciplined, you act like it. Your identity changes before your results fully appear, and identity drives behavior far more than temporary emotion ever could. When you choose discipline over motivation, you stop living reactively. You stop waiting for the perfect moment. You create the moment. 1 hour a day becomes proof that you are serious. Proof that you are building something real. Motivation might start the journey, but discipline carries it forward. Day after day, hour after hour, until what once felt difficult becomes who you are. Motivation is loud. It makes big promises. It feels electric in the moment. You watch a video, hear a speech, read a quote, and suddenly you're ready to conquer the world. But motivation is emotional, and emotions are unstable. They rise and fall. They depend on mood, weather, sleep, stress, and circumstance. If your growth depends on motivation, your growth will be inconsistent. Some days you'll feel unstoppable. Other days you won't even start. And that's the trap most people live in, waiting to feel ready. Discipline is different. Discipline is quiet. It doesn't need excitement. It doesn't need applause. It shows up whether you feel inspired or not. It understands something powerful action creates momentum, not the other way around. When you commit to 1 hour a day, you remove the debate. You don't wake up asking, do I feel like it? You wake up knowing, it's what I do. That shift alone changes everything, because now you are not negotiating with your comfort. You are honoring a commitment. The beauty of discipline is that it simplifies life. It eliminates decision fatigue. When something becomes part of your routine, it no longer drains mental energy. You don't argue with brushing your teeth. You don't debate whether you should sleep. It's automatic. That's what your 1 hour must become: automatic, scheduled, protected, non-negotiable. Discipline turns a goal into a standard, and standards are powerful because they define who you are. There will be days when you're tired, days when your schedule feels overwhelming, days when distractions pull harder than usual. In those moments, motivation will disappear, but discipline will remind you of your promise. It will whisper, just show up. And often showing up is enough. You don't need perfection. You need presence. Even if the hour isn't your best work, it's still progress, and progress compounds. Discipline also builds self-respect. Every time you keep your word to yourself, you strengthen trust within. You begin to see yourself as someone reliable, someone consistent, someone who finishes what they start. That internal shift is powerful because once you believe you are disciplined, you act like it. Your identity changes before your results fully appear, and identity drives behavior far more than temporary emotion ever could. When you choose discipline over motivation, you stop living reactively. You stop waiting for the perfect moment. You create the moment. 1 hour a day becomes proof that you are serious, proof that you are building something real. Motivation might start the journey, but discipline carries it forward. Day after day, hour after hour, until what once felt difficult becomes who you are. Wishes are emotional. Rituals are intentional. A wish says, I hope things change. A ritual says, this is how things change. And there is a powerful difference between the two. Most people live in the language of hope. They hope they'll get in shape. They hope they'll become successful. They hope they'll feel more confident, more focused, more fulfilled. But hope without structure is fragile. It disappears the moment life becomes inconvenient. Rituals, however, are built to survive inconvenience. A ritual is not random action. It is repeated, deliberate behavior tied to a clear purpose. It has a time, it has a place, it has a structure. When you create a 1 hour daily ritual, you eliminate uncertainty. You don't wake up asking what you should do. You already know. The decision has been made in advance. And that pre-decided action removes hesitation. Hesitation is the enemy of progress. The more you think about whether to act, the less likely you are to act. Rituals silence that internal debate. There is power in doing the same focused action at the same time every day. It trains your mind to enter performance mode automatically. Athletes warm up the same way before games. Performers rehearse the same way before stepping on stage. High achievers have structured mornings or structured evenings, not because they lack creativity, but because structure protects creativity. When the fundamentals are automatic, your energy is free to grow, build, and expand. Rituals also create psychological momentum. When you begin your hour the same way, perhaps with 5 minutes of silence, journaling, or planning, your brain recognizes the pattern. It prepares for focus. It reduces resistance. Over time, the ritual itself becomes a trigger. You no longer struggle to begin. You simply step into it, and starting is often the hardest part. Once you begin, momentum carries you forward. Wishes depend on emotion. Rituals depend on commitment. When your hour becomes ritualized, it no longer feels optional. It feels like part of your identity. You don't skip it casually because it represents something bigger. It represents discipline. It represents growth. It represents the person you are becoming. And when something represents your identity, you protect it fiercely. The beauty of rituals is that they compound quietly. No dramatic announcements, no loud declarations, just consistent execution, day after day, week after week. And one day you look back and realize that what started as a simple hour has shaped your thinking, sharpened your skills, strengthened your character. You stopped wishing for change, and you built a system that made change inevitable. Consistency is not flashy. It doesn't attract applause. It doesn't trend. It doesn't go viral. It is quiet, repetitive, sometimes even boring. But make no mistake, it is one of the most powerful forces in the world. Because while talent can spark attention and intensity can create short bursts of progress, only consistency creates lasting momentum. And momentum is what separates temporary effort from permanent transformation. When you commit to 1 hour a day, the real magic is not in any single session. It's in the accumulation. One workout won't transform your body. One study session won't make you an expert. 1 hour of writing won't make you an author. But repeat that hour every day, and something shifts. Skills sharpen, confidence builds, resistance weakens. The task that once felt difficult becomes natural. The hour that once required effort becomes routine. That is momentum. The point where progress begins to carry you instead of you carrying it. Momentum changes how you feel about yourself. When you show up consistently, you begin to see evidence of your growth. You start noticing small improvements, clearer thoughts, stronger focus, better execution. Those small wins fuel belief, and belief fuels further action. Suddenly, the hour is no longer something you force yourself to do. It becomes something you protect because you can see the results, you can feel the progress. You've built movement in your life that refuses to stand still. Consistency also builds resilience. When you commit daily, you learn to push through different moods and circumstances. You practice discipline on good days and bad days. You work when you're energized and when you're tired. And that repetition under varying conditions strengthens you. It teaches you that progress doesn't depend on perfect circumstances. It depends on repeated effort. Over time, this mindset spills into other areas of your life. You become someone who doesn't quit easily. Someone who understands that steady effort outperforms sporadic bursts of passion. There's something else powerful about consistency. It compounds invisibly. For weeks, maybe even months, you may not see dramatic results. But beneath the surface, change is happening. Neural pathways are strengthening. Habits are solidifying, skills are layering. And then, one day, the breakthrough appears. To others, it may look sudden, but you know the truth. It was built hour by hour, day by day, quietly. Momentum is not built in moments of excitement. It is built in moments of repetition. When you refuse to skip your hour, when you show up regardless of how you feel, you send a message to yourself: I move forward daily. That message becomes a belief. That belief becomes identity. And that identity becomes unstoppable force. 5-5 Protect your time is the one resource you cannot earn back, borrow, or negotiate with. Once it's gone, it's gone. And yet, people guard their money more fiercely than they guard their minutes. They budget their finances, but spend their hours carelessly. They hesitate before making a purchase, but they give away their attention without hesitation. If you truly want your 1 hour a day to change your life, you must treat it like something priceless. Because it is. Protecting your time means understanding that not everything deserves access to you. Notifications, messages, endless scrolling, random conversations, they all compete for your attention. And attention is energy. When your energy is scattered, your growth is scattered. That 1 hour must be sacred. Phone on silent, social media off, door closed if necessary, no multitasking, no, just checking something quickly. When you allow interruptions, you weaken the power of the hour. Focus is what makes the hour transformative. There will always be something demanding your time. The world is designed to distract you. Algorithms are built to hold your attention. Conversations stretch longer than necessary. Tasks expand beyond their importance. If you don't consciously protect your hour, it will be taken from you, not by force, but by habit. And the danger of habit is that it feels normal. Losing 1 hour may not seem like much, but losing it daily becomes a pattern, and patterns shape outcomes. Protecting your time also means saying no. No to activities that don't align with your goals. No to unnecessary commitments. No to habits that drain you. Saying no can feel uncomfortable at first. But every time you say no to something unimportant, you say yes to your future. That's the mindset shift. You're not being selfish. You're being intentional. You're choosing long-term growth over short-term comfort. When you defend your hour consistently, people begin to respect it. More importantly, you begin to respect yourself. You send a message internally that your growth matters, that your goals are serious, that your dreams are not casual thoughts, but structured pursuits. And that self-respect builds confidence. Confidence that comes not from words, but from boundaries. The 1 hour a day routine only works if it is protected, not sometimes, not when convenient, but daily. It must be scheduled like an important meeting, because it is. It is a meeting with the person you are becoming. And when you treat it with that level of importance, it starts producing results with that level of power. The most powerful transformation that happens in that 1 hour a day is not external. It's internal. Long before the results show up in your bank account, your body, or your achievement, something deeper begins to change. Your identity shifts, and identity is everything. Because you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your self-image. If you see yourself as inconsistent, you will act inconsistently. If you see yourself as disciplined, you will act with discipline. That one protected hour begins rewriting the story you tell yourself about who you are. At first, it feels like effort. You're trying to be focused, trying to be productive, trying to stay committed. But after weeks of showing up, something subtle happens. You stop saying, I'm trying to improve. You start saying, I'm someone who improves daily, That is no small shift. When behavior becomes identity, it stops feeling forced. It becomes natural. You no longer rely on external validation. You rely on internal standards. Every time you complete your hour, you cast a vote for the person you want to become. 1 hour of study casts a vote for being knowledgeable. 1 hour of training casts a vote for being strong. 1 hour of building casts a vote for being capable. And those votes accumulate. Identity is not formed in a single decision. It is formed in repeated evidence. The more evidence you collect, the stronger your belief becomes. And once belief becomes solid, your behavior aligns automatically. An identity shift changes how you handle challenges. When obstacles appear, and they will, you don't immediately doubt yourself. You don't retreat into old habits. Instead, you respond from your new standard. A disciplined person doesn't quit because of inconvenience. A focused person doesn't surrender to distraction. When your identity evolves, your reactions evolve. You begin to operate at a higher level without constantly forcing yourself to do so. There's also a confidence that emerges from consistency. Not loud confidence, not arrogance, but quiet certainty. The kind that doesn't need to announce itself. The kind that walks into a room grounded. Because you know what you do daily. You know the work you've put in. You know the promises you've kept to yourself. That kind of confidence cannot be faked. It is built hour by hour in private. Eventually, the results become visible to others. They notice your growth, your focus, your strength, your progress. But what they are really seeing is the reflection of an identity that has been reshaped through repetition. The 1 hour a day routine doesn't just change your schedule. It changes how you see yourself. And once you see yourself differently, you begin to live differently. And now the question is not whether 1 hour can change your life. The question is, will you claim it? Because 2026 will move forward whether you grow or not. The days will pass, the clock will tick, the weeks will stack, and a year from now, you will either look back with pride or with regret. The difference won't be dramatic. It won't be loud. It will be found in 60 quiet minutes you chose to honor or ignore. 1 hour a day is not about pressure. It's about power. It's about deciding that your future deserves your focus. It's about proving to yourself that you are capable of consistency. It's about becoming dangerous to your doubts and unstoppable to your excuses. You don't need more time, you need more intention. You don't need a new year. You need a new standard. Protect the hour. Commit to the ritual. Show up when it's hard. Show up when it's boring. Show up when no one claps, because one day the life you prayed for will be the life you built. And it will have started with 1 hour